Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was from the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. And tonight was Raw Reunion, where a bunch of WWE's legends and Hall of Famers returned for one night for this reunion special. And pretty much, we all knew why WWE ended up putting this reunion show for Raw together. This was a desperation attempt by WWE, or maybe even USA. I could tell that we all know that we could tell that this was a desperation attempt to get ratings, for the ratings to go up a little bit, because we all know Raw ratings have been shit. They've been, in like 1.3, 1.2 territory. So this was an attempt for them to get the ratings higher up a little bit. And the show ended an hour ago, and they are showing replay of it again right now. And then tomorrow they're going to show another replay of it before SmackDown. So, I gotta say, Raw Reunion, I had fun with the show, in my opinion. It wasn't a perfect show by any means, but I enjoyed it just by, nostalgia with all the other legends and the superstars. And, the show did nothing to build for SummerSlam, and the show did absolutely nothing to build to future events and storylines, and to develop characters. And also, aside from the legends that appeared tonight, the show helped build the stupid jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title. It helped the show helped that title to be elevated, and we had the legends battle for the title, which to me tonight it felt like a throwback. It felt like the hardcore title from back in the day. And also from this show proved with the legends, because they had pops from the crowd, better than the superstars get on the main roster. It proved that WWE has no star power on the main roster, and it has nothing to do with the talent there. It has nothing to do with Seth Rollins or Becky Lynch or Bray Wyatt or Bayley and most of the others, and the other superstars that are on the roster. It has nothing to do with talent. To me, the problem is the reason why there's no star power on the main roster has to do with the ones that run the show, mainly and especially Vince McMahon. So that proves it right there. All the legends, the crowd popped for them, and some of the superstars here, on the main roster today, some of them, they have no star power. So this show proved it tonight. But all in all, to me, it was a fun show, in my opinion. Even though I said we all know why they did it, because it was possibly a desperation to get the ratings back up a little bit. So, but I'm gonna run down some of the legends that appeared on the show tonight. So, well, I can't believe this. I can't believe the first superstar I'm going to say. So the first to appear tonight, legends, Alicia Fox. Why? Alicia Fox is not even a legend. We had Alundra Blaze, which she still looks good. We had Booker T, the five-time WCW champion. We had Candice Michelle, which, it was good to see her again. Candice was one of my favorites, back in the day. I always remember when she did the, the GoDaddy, sort of like turn that she did. We had Christian. Sadly, Edge did not appear tonight. Did not make an appearance. Devon Dudley made an appearance. No Bubba Ray. We had DX, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, X-Pac, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn. Of course, wasn't there because Billy Gunn is with, we all know. We had Eve Torres, who still looks really good. We had Eric Bischoff. We had Gerald Briscoe. Hulk Hogan. What you gonna do, brother? We had Hurricane Helms, the hurricane. Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through. Which he now works behind the scenes in WWE. We had Jerry the King Lawler. We had John Cena. Boop, 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 boop. Jimmy Hart, of course, with the megaphone. We had Caitlyn, Kelly Kelly, Kevin Nash. We had Kurt Angle, Lillian Garcia, former ring announcer, Mark Henry, Mick Foley. We had Melina. It was good to see Melina again. It's been a while since I've seen Melina on WWE TV, since the last time she was there. I always remember when she was with when she was a part of Eminem with Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, and Joey Mercury. We had Pat Patterson, Ric Flair, woo, Rikishi, RVD. Rob Van Dam made a surprise appearance, which was awesome. We had Ron Simmons, Santino Marella with the Cobra. Yeah, he had the Cobra, which he showed tonight. We had Scott Hall, Sergeant Slaughter, and we had $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Tori Wilson. It was good to see her. I met Tori Wilson at Access this year, WrestleMania Access. Very awesome, very cool. She was very cool. We had I'm the Boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you. The Boogeyman. We had The Godfather, the Ho Train. And we also had everyone's favorite, and in my opinion, the man of the hour when he came out, none other than Stone Cold Steve Austin. And another legend was announced, was Psycho Sid. He was advertised, but for some reason he didn't appear. So WWE kind of, lied about that, saying that, Psycho Sid was going to be a part of the show tonight. It was going to be one of the legends to appear tonight. So that was misinformation by WWE. So those were the legends that appeared tonight. But let's get started with the with the Raw reunion review. 10 minutes in, and I'm already starting the review. So, the Raw reunion opened up with John Cena. John Cena came out. Unfortunately, he didn't do the. It would have been cool to see him do the Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick that he had. But he just came out as regular John Cena wearing the green shirt, green hat. And he ended up saying that, Cena ends up saying that he's excited to be here. And he hypes up the appearances of some of the legends. From Hulk Hogan to Ric Flair to DX, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And, after he mentions all, the legends that, were there tonight, he says this is his home. He says it always has been, always will be. And he says he knows he's not around as much as he used to be. He says, but where is his heart and his family? Cena says he's just as excited to be here today as he was on day one. And he says, so without further ado, he wanted to get the show on the road. So the Usos make their way out. The Usos came out. They got in the ring. And they end up asking if Cena just said day one. And asks what will make the Raw reunion even more lit. So Cena goes to leave the ring. And the Usos end up saying, oh, these people here came to see the doctor, not the cat that left us for the movie business. So they were attempting for Cena to do his Doctor of Thugonomics. The last time we saw Cena do that was at WrestleMania this year. So Cena says, he ends up saying that the Usos look like their mugshots. And the Usos end up pointing out that their dad, Rikishi, is here. So Rikishi made his entrance, and he was using, the Sky Two Hotties, old entrance music, with the turn it up. So it was cool to see Rikishi again. So Rikishi ends up telling Cena to respectfully back that ass up and turn back around. Rikishi says he knows John Cena is the man. But tonight, he can't let him leave without busting the move. So I was like, oh, we're going to get to see them dance, in the ring, just like the old school Too Cool days, where it was Rikishi, Grandmaster Sexay, may he rest in peace, and also Sky Too Hottie. I thought we were going to see them guys bust a move, but the Revival end up coming out, so they didn't bust a move in the ring. The Revival end up coming out, and also Devon Dudley came out. Like I said, Bubba Ray was nowhere here. So it was cool to see Devon again. I met Devon. Pretty cool guy. Then we went backstage and we saw Hulk Hogan. He was with Jimmy Hart. Of course, Jimmy Hart had his megaphone. And they were hyping the show up. They were hyping this Raw reunion up. Then we had the Usos versus the Revival tag team match. For this match, Booker T ended up joining Corey Graves, Michael Cole, and Renee Young on commentary. He was like the guest commentator for the match. And the match got underway. We had Rikishi on the side with his sons, the Usos. And we had Devon on the other side with the Revival. And the match itself, it was a pretty fun match. It was a decent match between the Usos and the Revival. But they end up getting the win, the Usos. Jey Uso end up hitting a diving splash on Scott Dawson. And before the end of the match happened, we had Rikishi and Devon. They were, talking trash. Dawson ended up getting in Rikishi's face through the ropes. And Scott Dawson turned around, ended up getting a super kick from Jimmy Uso. That's when Jimmy ended up tagging in Jey. Jey went for the diving splash on Scott Dawson. And that's how the match ended. But all in all, it was a fun match. It was a fun, decent match between the Usos and the Revival. And the whole entire opening segment, I forgot to mention, it was very fun. It was a fun opening to the show. Then we saw backstage. We saw Alicia Fox. She was wearing the cap, like the captain's hat, and she said that she has the best armor class in the room. So Tori Wilson ends up coming up. Both her and Alicia, had a moment together. Santino Marella shows up, and they both ask Santino about his sister and his other girlfriend. And, about his sister, we all want to forget about that, when Santino dressed up as Santina, it ended up becoming like Miss WrestleMania. We all don't want to remember that. Because that was fucking horrible. If you all remember that back in like, it was like 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. But Santino ends up taking out the Cobra. So they all are having fun. And Drew McIntyre suddenly appears. McIntyre ends up muttering legends. And so he ends up walking off. So, and that's what happened backstage. But cool to see Tori Wilson and Santino Marella. It's been a while since we've seen them on TV. I mean, we saw Tori Wilson at the Hall of Fame this year. That was the last time we saw her. But Alicia Fox, it's been a while since she's been on TV. She's been having all this trouble that she had before, returning. But we all didn't miss seeing Alicia. So then we had Charlie Caruso. She was interviewing R-Truth and Carmella. They ended up playing a recap of R-Truth was being interviewed at San Diego Comic-Con. I think this was for IGN when they were live streaming from San Diego Comic-Con. And it showed the Hurricane, Shane Helms. He was, being challenged by Hurricane. R-Truth was being challenged by the Hurricane, Shane Helms. So Hurricane, we seen the footage. Hurricane end up rolling up R-Truth. Truth ended up kicking out of it. Drake Maverick came in. He was dressed in the banana suit, and he ended up pinning R-Truth. And he won, I guess, the 24/7 championship at the San Diego Comic-Con. And so after the recap finished, Truth says if he had known about this, he'd have gotten Big Bird or Larry Bird in. So Drake Maverick's wife, Renee Michelle, came in. She called R-Truth out for ruining her life, for ruining her marriage, ruining, Drake Maverick's, life. So we saw her and Carmella. They end up bickering. Drake Maverick comes from behind, rolls up R-Truth, and Drake Maverick wins the 24/7 championship once again. Little mix up in my notes. Actually, Drake Maverick at the San Diego Comic-Con recap. Truth end up kicking out of that. So Drake Maverick didn't win at San Diego Comic-Con. So I apologize for that. I got my notes all mixed up. So, but Drake Maverick wins the 24/7 championship here, and this is just, what, the 24/7, the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 championship was tonight. With many of these, led with these guys and with Drake Maverick, R-Truth, and the Legends going back and forth with the title. This is the start of what made the 24/7 championship elevated tonight. Then what was supposed to be Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexander once again. And fortunately, the match didn't get underway. We had Drew McIntyre brawling with Cedric Alexander before the match even got underway. Cedric Alexander managed to put Drake Maverick through the steps. He ended up kicking McIntyre. Ended up hitting a good moonsault off of the ring apron onto McIntyre. And so McIntyre ends up popping Cedric into the ring post. And he ended up picking up Cedric Alexander, ramming him into the barricade. And then we saw McIntyre end up hitting a very sick Alabama slam into the ring apron, and Cedric Alexander went flying, into the ring apron, Alabama slam on the ring apron. But it was sick though, and so that's pretty much basically what happened. So it was just a brawl between McIntyre and Cedric Alexander. Will not be surprised if we get this next week. Drew McIntyre versus Cedric Alexander once again. Then we saw Drake Maverick. He was rushing to his locker room to collect, his belongings. And we see him open a box. And the box was full of worms. And we realize the Boogeyman was in there. So Drake Maverick was scared shitless. And, the Boogeyman was like, his famous, "I'm the Boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you." So Drake Maverick ends up tripping and falls. Pat Patterson walks in. He ends up stepping on Drake Maverick. And a referee's there. Referee counts 1, 2, 3. Pat Patterson wins by pinfall. It was a foot pin on Drake Maverick. So Pat Patterson wins the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title. So it was funny though, seeing Pat Patterson win it. Then we saw the War Raiders versus Zack Ryder and Curt Hawkins tag team match. This was just a squash match. this was pretty much a nothing match. For this match, Christian was joined on commentary. It was cool. It was cool to see him, on commentary. Same with Booker T when he came out for the Usos versus the Revival. But the War Raiders end up getting the win. The Viking Experience to Curt Hawkins. And that was basically that. So the War Raiders end up winning. All in all, this was just a squash tag team match. So then we went backstage. We saw a bunch of legends over there, and we see Mike Kanellis. Mike Kanellis is talking to Eve Torres and Eric Bischoff. Maria rolls up to berate Mike Kanellis, to berate Mike. So Bischoff suggests on bringing him to SmackDown. And Maria ends up needing Mike to put lotion on her belly to prevent stretch marks. And she ends up saying, oh, the stretch marks would end her modeling career. So then we see Ron Simmons. He comes up silent, of course. He ends up taking Jimmy Hart's megaphone, and he ends up saying his famous "damn" through the megaphone, which was funny. So, but it was cool to see Eve Torres and Eric Bischoff, considering now Eric Bischoff is going to be executive director of SmackDown. But he's not going to be a part of the creative team for SmackDown. So it was cool seeing them, and cool seeing Ron Simmons. So after that, we saw the Club, AJ Styles, Gallows, Anderson backstage. They were celebrating their new branding. Yes, they're now being branded as, this is what they're called. They are called the OC, the original Club. And I'm like, the OC. So they basically took the title from the show, the OC. If you remember that show on Fox. I never seen the show, but I've heard about it. So basically, they just took the title from that show and put it here. That's what I think of when I hear the OC. So they're now being called the original Club. They say that they are the only ones that matter, not these so-called legends. So they end up talking about making a statement and showing the world how they are the most dominant group in WWE. Then, now, and forever. And the segment ends with them all doing the Too Sweet. So now they're being called the OC. So they just ripped off the title of the show from back in the day. How original. So then we see Patterson. He was backstage. He was yelling at Gerald Briscoe. And Gerald Briscoe, we see, he has just won the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title. So I guess he ended up pitting Pat Patterson or just taking it from him. So he's celebrating, and he runs into Kelly. So Kelly ends up hitting Briscoe knee to the balls. So Kelly wins by pinfall. And so Kelly is the 24/7 champion. So there you go. But I said the 24/7 title kept on changing hands tonight. So after we saw Kelly win the 24/7 championship, we went to Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe came out. And he says he's come here tonight to point out a great injustice in WWE. He talks about, shows like the Raw reunion being a plague to WWE. And he was letting people, he was saying, people are putting on their glasses, their rose-colored glasses, and the people are being blinded by nostalgia. Which, gonna admit that he has a point. He was right on that. He says instead of seeing what he does best, you got the Usos out here with their daddy, spitting all these limericks at John Cena. So Joe was doing fine on the mic. And then we had Roman Reigns. So Roman Reigns came out, and right here, Roman just killed this whole segment right here when he came out. So Roman ended up getting face to face with Joe, and he says if Joe's got something to say about his family, he should say it. So Joe says he wants to make it clear to everyone. He doesn't have something to say. He already said something. So Roman says he's from the same island. He knows what happens next. So then we had Joe ends up throwing punches at Roman. Roman ends up blocking the punches, fires back at Joe. Joe puts Roman into the ring post. Then Joe ends up putting Roman into the barricades. We end up going back in the ring. Joe ends up hammering Reigns with, boots and a headbutt. Roman ends up, out on the floor again. And Joe end up, drawing at Roman against the barricade. Joe ended up throwing Reigns back inside the ring. Reigns got back up and Superman punched Joe off of the ring apron. So Joe gets back on the mic, and Joe ends up saying, "Oh, you want to do this? Let's do it the right way." He says if the people want to see it tonight, before saying, he won't do a damn thing for these people. So Roman gets on the mic and says, not all Samoans are cowards. So Joe ends up firing back at Roman, saying that, he's about to see one put out permanently. And then we had a match. The match was made for Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. So after Raw came back from the commercial, we had the match. Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe, which, if you saw that match last year at Backlash, this is what we got. If you've seen Backlash from last year, their match, it was the same thing what we saw tonight. The match was boring. The match was shit. And the crowd wasn't really into it. The crowd was dead through this match. So, of course, Roman Reigns won the match. Spear to Joe. Once again, Joe loses another match. Roman wins it. And this is just going to set up another match for them at SummerSlam. Calling it right now. It's going to be Roman Reigns versus Joe at SummerSlam. We're going to get another boring match between the both of them. Like last year, we didn't see enough of them and their match at Backlash. So we're going to have to see them go at it again. So then we had The Miz. He came out for Miz TV. He ends up introducing his guest, who was Seth Rollins. We got a recap of what happened at Extreme Rules. With Brock Lesnar cashing in the Money in the Bank contract and winning the Universal Championship. Sorry about that, but I was saying, we had the recap of what happened at Extreme Rules when Brock Lesnar cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase, ended up pinning Seth Rollins to win the Universal Championship. And then after the recap was over, Seth laughs at the idea that, the biggest match of his life is a predicament, which he was mocking Paul Heyman. He's mocking Paul Heyman's way of introducing Brock Lesnar, which was cringe. So Paul Heyman appears backstage. He was in the gorilla position. He was talking about how his client, Brock Lesnar, and Seth ends up calling Brock a Seth Rollins wannabe. And right when Seth ended up saying that, Heyman came down to ringside. So Seth says this is the last time and only time he'll tell him that if he wants to talk the talk for Brock Lesnar, he better be prepared to walk the walk. And he's going to give him 5 seconds before he comes down the ramp and stomps Heyman's head in. So Paul Heyman is freaking out. And he's like, oh, I'm just an advocate. So Seth does a fast count. And hilarious, if you've seen, Paul Heyman run backstage, it was fucking hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. If you play this segment again, when Seth made the fast count, you see Paul Heyman running from the back, you'll be dying of laughter at how fast Paul Heyman ran backstage. So Seth says Brock Lesnar isn't a beast or a conqueror. He's a man, and a man can lose. He says at SummerSlam, he's going to wrestle Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship, and Brock will lose. He says as for tonight, he doesn't get ready for the biggest match of his life by wrestling. He gets ready by facing the best of the best. He says tonight he's got AJ Styles. Pretty much that's how the segment ended, but this whole segment was awful. It's fucking awful. It was just a rehash of what Seth was saying, before WrestleMania. It was just rehash. So it was awful. It was fucking awful. So we had Charlie Caruso. She was backstage, partying with the legends. She was telling them on who will win at SummerSlam. So Sami Zayn ends up coming up. Sami says that Charlie Caruso is what's wrong with the program, and that these people aren't legends. That they were just there at the time. So Rey Mysterio comes, and he ends up picking a fight with Sami Zayn. And Kurt Angle ends up coming up, former Raw general manager. So Kurt Angle ends up coming up to remind us how he solved problems back when he was the general manager of Raw. Which this whole thing eventually led to a match between Rey Mysterio and Sami Zayn. But it was a decent backstage segment with them. So then we see Kelly. She ended up rolling up backstage. She ends up getting assaulted by Candice Michelle. Candice pins Kelly. So Candice Michelle wins the 24/7 title. It was cool seeing Candice once again. So then we had Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa. She ends up coming up. And Alundra Blaze wins the 24/7 title. She ended up locking in a sleeper hold to Candice Michelle. So Alundra Blaze ended up winning the 24/7 title. So the 24/7 title, like I said, it kept changing hands tonight. Sorry about that, but I was saying, the 24/7 title kept changing hands tonight. Then we had Rey Mysterio versus Sami Zayn. This was okay match, back and forth between Mysterio and Sami Zayn. You had Sami Zayn almost at the end of the match. Sami Zayn did not want to continue with the match, and he was walking up the ramp, decided that he had enough. So then we see Rob Van Dam came out. Was a surprise. Surprised to see Rob Van Dam. And WWE Hall of Famer and legend Sergeant Slaughter came out too. Then you had the Hurricane, Shane Helms, come out. And of course, Kurt Angle. And all four of them came down, made their way from the stage down the ramp. Sami ends up backing up, and he gets caught back in the ring. Rey Mysterio ends up hitting the 619 on Sami Zayn. Rey goes up to the top, and Rey wins the match, ends up hitting the frog splash to Sami Zayn. So Rey Mysterio ends up winning the match. But overall, okay match. I mean, it was cool to see Rob Van Dam and the Hurricane, Shane Helms, Kurt Angle, also Sergeant Slaughter. Then when Raw came back from the commercial, we saw the Street Profits. Montez Ford was looking for Angelo Dawkins. You saw Dawkins end up putting eye drops in. Dawkins says he just got done chilling with Rob Van Dam, and he recounts, a tale of how he was hanging out with all the legends to Montez Ford, increasing the excitement. And he was leaving, he was having to leave him, take a call from, the Godfather, which I forgot to mention. The Godfather was in a backstage segment with Charlie Caruso, which that was very cool. It happened when Drake Maverick won the 24/7 title backstage. So, and then the Godfather was like, if Charlie Caruso knew what time it is. And he ends up welcoming Charlie Caruso aboard the Ho train. So I forgot to mention that, though, which happened earlier in the show after the Usos versus the Revival. Then we had Alundra Blaze She ended up coming out. She came to the commentary desk with the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title. She ends up picking up a trash can, which you all know the famous thing that she did on Nitro. And it looked like she was going to throw the title away, which the title should belong in the fucking garbage. And before Alundra could throw it away, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, came out. So DiBiase came out. He ended up pulling out a wad of cash. And he ends up buying the title from Alundra Blaze. And you could tell the money was fake. It wasn't real money. So Ted DiBiase walks away. $1 Million Man walks away with the 24/7 title. Then we had Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. For this match, Jerry Lawler ended up joining the commentary table. Of course, we had Gallows and Anderson on the outside. And we also had DX, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels come out. And, we saw Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Seth Rollins was standing there. And it was really cool. You had DX and Seth Rollins and AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson there. They ended up squaring up. And Raw went to commercial. And everybody was like, oh, we're going to get a 6-man tag from this. Eventually, that wasn't the case. So we just had a one-on-one match between Styles and Rollins. And the match ended in a disqualification. No finish was announced. They didn't say, oh, this match ends in a disqualification. So Seth ended up winning the match because the club ended up attacking Seth Rollins, Gallows and Anderson. And we had Rollins, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, DX. They faced up against the club. And Styles was like, oh yeah, we're a part of this. And they end up wanting DX and Seth Rollins to do the Too Sweet. So Triple H and Shawn Michaels throw up the Too Sweet. And they end up doing the Suck It. And a brawl started between DX and the club, or the OC, as they would call them. So the OC are outside. They end up regrouping. They end up grabbing chairs. And they surround the ring. And then we hear, oh, you didn't know? So Road Dogg, X-Pac, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash, they end up coming down. And they add up the numbers. Road Dogg adds up the numbers, and they introduce the OCs to the OGs, meaning DX and the Clique. And the club, or the OCs, didn't want nothing to do with them. And so Seth Rollins ends up doing the if you aren't down with that, we've got 2 words for you. Suck it. And Seth Rollins did it pretty well there. So it was cool. It was cool. Then we saw, for a little bit, we saw Mark Henry and Mick Foley. They were chatting backstage, which was cool. Then when Raw came back from the commercial, we saw the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. He ends up getting in a limo. When DiBiase's in the limo, noises are heard from the limo. And we find out and we see Drake Maverick gets out of the limo with the title in his hand. And we see, the superstars, jobber superstars come down and chase after Maverick. We saw EC3 and others there, cued the Benny Hill music. So it was that. So of course, Drake Maverick has the other 24/7 title again. Then this was one of my favorites. One of my favorite segments of tonight. So Mick Foley was in the ring. He was on the mic. He reminds us he was the one to introduce the 24/7 title. And then we just see Drake Maverick. He was running. And the jobbers end up, running after him. Drake goes through the ring. The jobbers run after him. So Mick Foley ends up saying that he vows to take the title before the end of the night. And he says some of the finest moments of his life have been on Raw on Monday nights over the last 24 years. Shows a clip of him winning the WWE Championship for the first time in January of 1999, which was 20 years ago already. Which that was one of the best moments in, Mick Foley's career. And so the lights shut down. And we hear Corey Graves go, "Oh, another power outage." And as the lights come back on, we see Bray Wyatt dressed as the Fiend in his Fiend mask. He ends up attacking Mick Foley. And he attacks Mick Foley with Foley's signature finisher, the Mandible Claw. So Bray Wyatt applied the Mandible Claw to Mick Foley, choking him out. And then Raw goes to commercial. But I thought this whole segment was very well done. It was decent. I liked it. It was one of my favorite segments of the night. And I hope they continue this with Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt, appears out of nowhere, starts attacking superstars. Hopefully we get to see that. Hopefully WWE keeps that up, makes Bray Wyatt, go attack, superstars, building him up more. But hopefully WWE doesn't once again fuck up with Bray Wyatt. But it was easily one of my favorite segments tonight. Then we went from that. We went to Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross coming out for a moment of bliss, a moment of piss. And Alexa introduces Nikki Cross, and then she introduced her guest for this moment of piss, who was Becky Lynch. So Becky ends up taking her seat. Natalya ends up coming out to join them. Natalya says that if Becky has something to say to her, she can say it to her face. So we end up getting a recap of what happened last week on Raw. And after the recap was over, we had Natalya and Becky talk about their shared history. Becky says the title is the scalp of the baddest woman on the planet. And that she's going to embarrass Natalya in Canada at SummerSlam. So then we see a brawl between Natalya and Becky. The referees end up coming out to pull them apart. So then Raw goes to commercial, but the whole segment, it was meh. Didn't care for it. Then we had, when Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Natalya was being interviewed backstage. And she ends up taking credit for building the woman's evolution. And she promises Becky the ass whooping of a lifetime at SummerSlam. And then, she walks off. So, short little interview with Natalya. Then we see Drake Maverick. He was walking with the 24/7 title, Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 title. And his wife, Renee Michelle, pulls him into a limo. So R-Truth comes from behind. Carmella then assists. R-Truth ends up pinning Drake Maverick, schoolboy pin on Drake Maverick. R-Truth wins back the 24/7 title. And we see, it was funny, R-Truth drives off with Renee inside, Drake Maverick's wife, and also the title. He ends up leaving Drake Maverick behind. But it was funny. Oh boy. Then we had Braun Strowman versus this jobber named Randy Rowe. My God, Braun Strowman, he's been going downhill. This is low. This is low as what WWE is doing with Braun Strowman. So Braun Strowman just destroys a jobber. He ends up chokeslamming Randy Rowe. So Braun Strowman wins by pinfall, chokeslam. That was it. Moving on. So after Raw came back from commercial, we see Ric Flair made his entrance. This whole thing was a toast to Monday Night Raw. So Ric Flair came out. He's joined on the stage by the rest of the legends that appeared tonight. Also, Hulk Hogan came out. He got his own entrance. Hogan got on the mic and he says, "It's great to be here." And he said he apologized to Mick Foley. And he does his whole, what you gonna do, brother? When Hulk Hogan runs wild on you. So it was a little short on the mic from Hogan. Then we heard the glass shatter, and the man of the hour arrived. And that man was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he still got pops from the crowd, got loud pops from the crowd, which was awesome, which was amazing. So Stone Cold came out, made his entrance, and he had, his own beer, his own IPA. I guess that he created, and he had a bunch of Steve Weisers, as we used to call him. He puts it in the ring. He gets on the mic. He ends up saying that he's not going to come out here and get all sappy and sentimental. He says he'd rather hit stunners on everybody on the stage, which sadly tonight Austin didn't deliver any stunners to anybody. And he says everyone on the crew in WWE is his family. And he invites all the legends into the ring. He toasts the world, and the entire world, and he says, bottom line, Stone Cold said so. His music ends up hitting. He's like, oh, I forgot to mention, how many minutes do we have left? 1 minute? All right, because it was like 10:50. It was like 10:59. And he offers a toast to Jerry Briscoe. And He's like, and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. And so that's when Raw went off the air. But it was awesome seeing Stone Cold again. Got a big pop from the crowd. It's always awesome when he appears. But now is Raw Reunion, people. That was Raw Reunion, guys. Overall, it was a fun show. Wasn't a perfect show. The show did absolutely nothing to build for SummerSlam or for, future storylines and events and characters. And if the legends didn't appear on tonight's show, this show would have fucking sucked. In my opinion. If the legends weren't on the show would have flat out sucked. It would have been another typical shitty edition of Monday Night Raw. So, the legends being here tonight helped Raw. It helped make the show fun. And also, very, very much, with nostalgia. So, yes, anyways, that's it for my review of Raw Reunion. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this video. And definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until next video, which who knows what will probably be. Maybe a SmackDown review, maybe something else. So, until next video, I'll see you all later.